Yeah, I kind of was just like, I had this weird moment where I was just like, I really need a vacation. Like, I really need like a week off.
Hmm.
I was like, what can I go do? What's happening in like the next 3 weeks? And I was like, how much are tickets for Formula One? Too much money.
Literally.
We just need to give them a pit lane penalty for every single race going forward. But this isn't a racing podcast. This is episode 73 of the Halcyon Frequency podcast, which, if I got my dates correct, should be going up on June 11th, 2023. I'm Blind and I'm hosting, and I'm joined by Suwey, who's off in the corner. How are you?
I'm good. I'm really enjoying Summer Game Fest.
Just vibing and watching games get announced.
Yes.
Hell yeah. We're also joined by the voice that you probably just heard, Bloody Drongo. How are you?
I'm doing very well. I'm excited to be here, and I think this is the first time that we've actually had an extended conversation about our mutual love of F1, so I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to flying out to Montreal in like a week and watching Formula One, and then taking a week off, even though I'm only actually going to be in Montreal from like Friday until Tuesday, so I'm missing practice, but I'll be in the city during qualifying. I'll just go find a restaurant or something to watch it at, and then I'll be going to the actual race the next day. So I have like a day and a bit, or an afternoon and then a day to figure out how to get into the track. I've been to the track before. I actually rode a bicycle around it last year when I went to Montreal, so that'll be fun. And also, like, I think more F1 manager stuff just got announced. Not that I'll be playing that probably, but
yeah, I think that comes out a little bit later this month or next month, I think it is. I played the first one and I enjoyed it.
Weirdly quick turnaround on that, but
My entire knowledge of car racing is Mario Kart. So
well, I mean, if you want to watch attractive men complain about how somebody else's car is slightly faster than theirs and about how like their team could be slightly better, and then watch people change tires really, really, really quickly while British people talk over it, it's good fun.
okay, I like the attractive men and the tire changing quickly part. The rest sounds boring.
You would really like Daniel Ricciardo then, because that's all he does. He's not very fast these days generally when he's in a
Alright,
car,
Googling.
and he just kind of smiles.
Ricardio.
There's actually I have an emote of him in my chat,
Oh,
and I just heard
he
Windows.
is attractive.
I just heard
Ooh.
Windows disconnecting noises.
Uh-oh.
That's not good.
Oh,
Uh-oh.
guys.
Okay, nothing broke, so I will just hope that nothing important unplugged. Hopefully it was just a controller or something. But yeah, no, that's as a friend of mine describes Formula One, it's high speed twinks in a circle.
I mean, it's
So-
not wrong.
Except for maybe Alonso, but
True. But I mean, he's dating Taylor
Alonso.
Swift now, right? So
allegedly.
allegedly.
I don't know who-
He keeps posting
Alonso
TikToks.
who?
Fernando Alonso.
Yes.
Oh,
The
Fernando
Spaniard.
Alonso.
Fernando. But no, he keeps posting TikToks of like with Taylor Swift songs playing, just like fucking grinning,
So funny,
because like
dude.
obviously that's not actually happening. It's just rumor mill stuff. But it's just-
The best part in my mind is the headcanon that it is actually happening, and the height difference between those two is just astronomical. So funny.
My favorite
Really?
Alonso bit from the last like year or so was at the very end of this past round of Drive to Survive on Netflix, and he's just like, every sport needs a bad guy. I'll be the
Wait,
bad
she's
guy.
taller than him.
Oh, way taller.
Oh yeah, Fernando is like super short.
The thing you need to know about Formula One drivers, Suey, is they're all quite short, because optimal build for Formula One is slender, like 5'6", 5'5", and like not huge. Like they're all very, very, very physically fit, but none of them are bulky.
Except in the necks, because otherwise their necks would literally snap off under the G-forces.
Yeah, because they're doing like 50 Gs around those corners sometimes. I was trying to like explain like how like why it's a physical sport to my mom, because my mom refuses to believe that any car racing is a physical sport. I'm like, you know that they do like 50 Gs in those corners. These guys are like jet pilots. And like those dudes have to train. because one of the drivers, Kevin Magnussen, was out of the sport for a year, and when the illegal invasion of Ukraine by Russia happened, and the Russian driver and a Russian driver got kicked out, he was called back to take his seat back from the Russian that replaced him. And when he came back, he like hadn't been training and had like 3 weeks or something to like get ready. And after his first race, they're like, "How you feeling?" He's like, "I can't feel my neck." He's like, aside from that, doing okay. But yeah, no, Formula One's it's a fun sport to watch. I had someone describe it like baseball. It's like it's something that's just like practice and qualifying is just nice to have in the background, and then the actual race is like really exciting for like the beginning and the end, and then the rest you can just kind of chill. But here it's not really a baseball-esque sport because I have to wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning for most of the races.
Oh, dude, I'm up at like anywhere between like 11 at night through till about 5 in the morning for about 90% of the season. Like during the actual season, races. My sleeping pattern on Sundays is absolutely disgusting. It was my boss actually when I was working full time was knew that on a race weekend not to bother calling me until midday on the Monday because he knew that I was probably still asleep.
That's funny. Yeah, I mean, like here it's like everything's between like 5 and 7 a.m. and then like there's like 2 races a year that are at like midday, and then there's like Japan starts at like 1 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm pretty much in the same boat, except it's more just like I have to force my sleep schedule into something a little bit more normal, I guess.
Well, I mean, I guess the good news is that there's now, some more North American races at least, which is good.
I'm kind of looking forward to the race in Vegas. That's going to be interesting. It's either going to be absolutely horrendous or it's going to be very entertaining. And I think that regardless, it'll be cool to look at, but...
Yeah, it'll certainly be a spectacle one way or another. I think a lot of people have already written it off as being really, really bad, but honestly, like, I don't know, I'm willing to give it a chance. Like, a lot of people said that Jeddah was going to be really, really bad, and we've had some pretty good races at Jeddah.
I think Jeddah's kind of a dangerous circuit, but
it is super dangerous, but we've had some good races there.
It's no Isle of Man TT, but it's certainly not a safe circuit to go around super fast. Jeddah kind of surprises me that they put it on the calendar just because of how sketchy those corners are.
But money.
But money, yes.
Yeah. Money.
Just like, normal, like I'm going to go see the race in Montreal, right? And like my ticket was like $550 for one day.
Wow.
And it's like
that's so expensive.
The general admission weekend pass for Vegas without a hotel is $2,100.
Holy.
That's the general admission. Because like I looked it up because like flights to Vegas are like $90 from here sometimes. Like it is not expensive to fly to Vegas. And obviously they'd be more expensive during a Formula One race. But like I was, when that got announced, I was like, maybe. And I looked at it, I was like, nope, no, that's not happening.
Yeah, that is ludicrous. Also, I'd like to acknowledge the fact that you open with the segue. This is not a podcast about racing.
Nope, it is not.
Continue to just talk about racing. So my bad for actually putting us back on that track. But
the thing that is actually really exciting about Vegas, though, is it's not early in the year. It's not in the summer, and it's late at night. It's gonna be cold.
True.
Like I was in Vegas in November, and it was like 10 degrees during the day. So
is that like Fahrenheit
at night,
or Celsius?
That's Celsius.
At that low, I think is it more or less the same? I actually don't know.
And then at night it was going down to like sub 10. It was like 6 degrees outside. Like you could see your breath.
Fahrenheit to Celsius. Oh, what? That's what -12 Celsius? Yo, what?
That I was talking in Celsius, not in Fahrenheit.
Oh, okay, my bad.
Yeah,
I was gonna
sorry.
say
I don't speak in Fahrenheit.
Oh yeah, okay.
I'm Canadian,
my bad.
not American.
Misheard you.
But yeah, no. So like it's gonna be cold. It's gonna be chilly probably.
Yeah.
So I don't know. They'll be sliding everywhere. Anyway, this is a video games podcast, I swear. And Suwey's also here. So, Suwey, what have you been up to recently? Try and steer us onto a topic that maybe isn't cars going in circles.
Vroom vroom. Anyway, what have I been up to? I've been spending way too much time playing Final Fantasy XIV because there was a new patch and there's like a new Savage tier, which is like the really hardcore content, you know?
Yep.
So I've been doing a bunch of crafting in it and gathering to like, you know, try to make money and like get myself all the way up to current tier. And then I've been raiding with my static, which I am doing on Wednesdays on my stream now.
Well, you know, honestly, I think that's a pretty good segue here. Why don't we just dive into games? And when we come back from this real quick break, Suwey's going to continue talking about Final Fantasy. And we're back with the Halcyon Frequency podcast. So, Suwey,
Yeah.
talk to me about MMOs.
Yeah, well, just Final Fantasy XIV.
Yes.
None others. Not right now, anyway.
Not currently.
I'm too obsessed.
You're not
with...
cheating on your wife yet.
Yeah, not quite. Though it would be. I'm not into girls, but that's a different topic.
I don't know.
Anyway, I have been playing a bunch of it lately. Like, I took a break for a while and now I'm going hard again. Like, I have spent a ton of time crafting and gathering. I'm getting the newest gear. I'm doing Savage raiding with a static, which I'm doing on Wednesdays and Thursdays. Wednesdays I'm streaming on Twitch. I might start streaming it on YouTube on Thursdays.
Ooh.
I'm not sure yet. And it's been a lot of fun. So this tier is like really hard actually. The world first took over 24 hours to reach, which is pretty crazy. I'm pretty sure they're usually way faster than that, but the issue is the first raid, there's this really complicated mechanic that took a really long time for anybody to figure out how it works. And it's this whole like numbers thing where everyone gets assigned half the party gets assigned a number, half the party randomly gets a thing put to them so they have to go to the other side so the rest of the party doesn't get hit by it. While at the same time people are grabbing towers and being hit by a boss and you're having to go all over the place, and if one person messes up then they're dead, and if the wrong person messes up the whole party is dead. So it's a lot. We've managed to beat that mechanic twice, but not with the full party alive. But that, yeah, the prog of my party feels really good, my group. And I've been having a ton of fun just overall.
That's awesome. I'll be completely honest, that game exists and is popular. I never have any idea what's going on in it until updates come out. And even then, I usually don't even realize that updates have released for it. It's just suddenly a bunch of people will be playing Final Fantasy, and I'll be like, oh, I guess something's going on over there.
Must be that
Yeah,
time.
Anyways.
usually it's... Yeah, it gets really popular whenever a new patch comes out, and then like toward the end, before the next patch, they usually do an event to try and get people to play more again.
Mm-hmm. Yep. It's like, well, I guess Belinair and Suwey are going to disappear for a month.
I need to find out if Belle has done any Savage raiding or anything.
I think Belle's been doing some ESO lately with the new Necrom DLC that came out.
Yeah, a few people have been getting into that, I think. Again, another game that exists and is popular that I never know what's happening with it until suddenly everybody's playing it again.
I wish I could enjoy it, but my thing is like, I can't handle overly gloomy games, and like Skyrim, the Elder Scrolls series overall is very gloomy and like grayscale and stuff, and it just, I can't do it. I don't know why, but it's like I'm really picky when it comes to medieval fantasy or medieval in general and like grayscale gloomy type stuff. Like I can't do Darkest Dungeon either, you know? It just makes me sad. Yeah, I just get like really emotionally kind of distraught.
I would not think of Elder Scrolls games as gloomy, except for maybe like Daggerfall, but that's kind of a different era. And like Oblivion was super colorful for its time anyway. I mean, it was it was a lot of greens, but it had a nice color palette.
But it's not like whimsical fantasy, right? That's where I'm happy. I'm happy in your cute whimsical fantasy, right?
Yeah.
So when you think about that, I'm going to view that as gloomy.
But they have cat people.
That doesn't mean it's not gloomy.
I mean,
guess.
there is a point there. I'll talk about this a little bit later, but I have actually been on a big Skyrim binge lately, and I can speak directly to this point.
What, that it's
Well,
gloomy?
why don't you just talk about it now?
Yeah, go nuts.
All right. Well, I have been playing Elder Scrolls Skyrim, and I've been doing permadeath, survival mode, master difficulty runs. I now have a PB of level 6, and it has been extremely punishing. I think I'm up to my 8th character now, but it has been so much fun and so challenging. But one thing I will say directly about the Khajiit, or the cat people in Elder Scrolls, is that one of the cool things about them, and one of the things that makes them really fun in the early game, is the fact that they get a massive bonus to their unarmed damage. And
Well, yeah.
being
Plus.
able to run around and just absolutely like punch the absolute crap out of people and like suplex them off cliffs and stuff like that with a whimsical cat person is just like the most bizarre clash between, oh, this is kind of fun and silly, and then just like absolute utter brutality.
And also, like, then have depending on where you are in the world and what character you're playing, they might just start calling you names for being a cat person.
That is true. Yeah, exactly.
It's like unless you're playing a whatever the like imperialists are, which I can never remember the name of the different groups, but
in Skyrim it's the Nords is the one that
The Nords,
they're
yes.
the kind of like the native peoples, even though they're not
Yeah.
natives to Skyrim.
they've claimed
they
this
claim to
land.
be, yeah.
Yeah. If you're not playing as the Nords, then you just kind of get insulted by them every time you see them, regardless of who you're playing.
Exactly. But I mean, it is actually really interesting because it's Skyrim came out originally in 2011, and even though I've been playing the special edition, which has have had a bunch of different updates, including graphical and content wise, it's still a really, really fun game, and it still holds up. Like, I know
So
a
I'm
lot of
looking
people
at
don't love it compared to Oblivion and Morrowind and stuff like that, but honestly, like, I still think it's a really solid game. I appreciate those other ones in different ways, but Skyrim is just a good game. And I think it's almost become a victim of its own popularity, because it's like kind of a little bit popular to hate on it for being like kind of like a super basic game, and there's not much to it, when there's actually a lot of really cool aspects to it.
There is a lot to it, yeah, I agree. That's like, see, I enjoyed like how diverse the world is and how many different things there is to do. But honestly, it's just like I'm not a medieval fantasy person. Like, for some reason, I like Divinity Original Sin 2.
Divinity's
that
goofy
feels-
as all hell, though.
Yeah, I think it's the goofiness that just brings up the atmosphere so much, But like, I don't know, it just feels so serious, and the tone feels kind of like dark.
Yeah.
Looking
as
at
well.
looking at my Steam account right now, I haven't played Skyrim since August 6th, 2012.
Wow.
But I did play it for 133 hours. Thinking back on my time with Skyrim, like two main things really bothered me. It doesn't feel like you're playing an RPG, at least to me. It feels like an action adventure game with quests. Like it never really quite felt open and free enough that I was actually playing an RPG, and that always kind of bothered me. Like the dungeons always just kind of felt plain and repetitive, and not in like a good way. But like there definitely was fun to be had there. Like I look back on those days fondly. The biggest like dumb nitpick I have about Skyrim, however, is just the fact that there are no dragons in Skyrim. They claim that there's dragons in Skyrim, but there isn't a single dragon in Skyrim. I played that entire original quest. I finished the game. There are no dragons in Skyrim. There are, however, a lot of wyverns, which are, more bat-like creatures with feet with wings attached to their feet, whereas dragons have 4 feet and then wings on their back. And that's always really bothered me that Skyrim doesn't have any dragons, yet they seem to insist they do. which is why clearly the only optimal way to play Skyrim is to replace all of the dragons with Thomas the Tank Engine, and then Suwey can have her whimsical goofiness.
That is true. I mean, the modding scene for Skyrim is nothing short of impressive, but I think it's interesting for me. Like, it's one of those games where I will have a period, usually about once a year or once every couple of years, where I'll just be like, man, I really got the craving to go back and play that again. And then I'll play it for like maybe 1 or 2 months, and then I won't pick it up again for another year or 2 years. It's just a little cyclical thing, but it's just one of those comfort games to come back to and enjoy from time to time.
Certainly. Oh boy. Speaking of comfort games, I'm going to talk about something that's been very comforting to me for recent times as I've been playing through it. System Shock's remake finally came out. And so this is the very long time developed, once kickstarted remake of the original System Shock, developed by Night Dive and published by Prime Matter. And this is a good. This is a goodie. This is a really this has been a treat for me. I really have been enjoying it. Are either of you even remotely familiar with System Shock?
Nope. I am looking it up right now.
I have not played either the original or the remake, but I have watched one of my friends playing the remake version, and it does look to be a genuinely good and really competently done and well polished remake.
Yeah, so it's not perfect. It's got some. I would describe it as it's got a little bit of clunk to it, but kind of in a good way. So the original System Shock came out in 1994, and it was basically the prototype for immersive sims, largely. Game franchises like Deus Ex, Thief, more modern games like Prey and Dishonored, very much that kind of game exists because of System Shock to a degree. It was it also kind of did a lot of things that nobody else was really doing at the time, right? Like back in 1994, well, you had like Doom, right? You had Wolfenstein, which was you run around in an area and then you finish the level and you move on to the next level. This game had large open like the original System Shock had large open environments that you could freely roam around without load screens. There were load screens in the elevator where you moved to different floors, and it had adventure game elements where you'd get into the elevator and you'd go up several floors, then you'd get an item and take it down to a different floor and use that item to do a thing. The developers originally described it as science fiction underworld, Ultima Underworld, which was a kind of an earlier take on this, but was not as what's the word? It was a lot more primitive than System Shock even was back in 1994. Now, the original System Shock, the enhanced edition, is playable. A normal human being can play it, but it is getting to the point where it doesn't age that well, because like I would describe the remake of System Shock as a little bit clunky. The original System Shock is old. It looks old, it feels old. It's getting to that point where even for me as somebody who's played the original, it's hard to go back to. Now this System Shock is level layout wise a 1-to-1 remake. Like there is a couple side-by-side comparison videos of like the character sprinting across the map, and it takes the same amount of time to sprint across these levels, and all of the walls are the same shape, the same kind of weird flat panel design that they did with flat textures in the original System Shock and System Shock Enhanced Edition. They just took those same textures and textured them. So like this weird like square pattern that was on the walls, they're little raised bumps now. The areas are colored almost identically. The main, I think, aesthetic difference between the original game and the remake is the remake is a lot darker with a lot more neon, and it has this look to it that I love that has been a bit divisive. I've seen some people say that they don't like the look of it, but it's got this like very large pixel art look to it, almost like Valheim. Which I personally think suits it really, really well, and combine that with the really nice lighting, the very, very good audio design, and like atmospheric audio design. Like you can sit in a room and hear a mech walking 2 rooms down, echoing down hallways. And I have really nice headphones, and it's really nice to be able to like go, okay, I have to pull out a EMP because I can hear this guy coming. The part where I think the game kind of falls flat a little bit is it is kind of buggy. Like the first time I took an elevator, slight, I guess, spoiler, but when you take the elevator off of the first floor to the to the upper floor, I won't say which one it is because that kind of is a spoiler, but the door is open and there's a bunch of zombies there, right? Now, I did what any normal human being would do, and I pushed the button to go back down a floor, right? Bunch of zombies got into the elevator, got stuck above the elevator. When I got down, then the elevator music didn't stop, so I was just listening to this elevator jazz music, which, by the way, was hysterical. Get back into the elevator and then go back up the elevator, and then all the zombies fell through the ceiling of the elevator, and I was in an elevator full of zombies. Which, you know, I didn't die. I killed them. It was fine. But largely all of the bugs I have been running into haven't been game-breaking. They've just been utterly hysterical. I know that there is a few ways in the game to brick your progress because there is a recycling item or station where you can recycle items and get cash back, basically, which you can spend on vending machines to get more health kits and stuff because your health does not regenerate. But you can like accidentally recycle necessary items to progress, and then your save is just done. So you kind of have to be a little bit careful like that. And I've heard some reports of some late game bugs that can be pretty debilitating, but that stuff all seems to be getting patched up pretty quick because it's pulled a number of patches since launch. The other kind of thing that I would say I wish was better is the guns feel great. Like it feels good to shoot the guns. The shotgun's good. The pistols are good. The machine pistol is great. The beam weapons are a little weak. The problem is the enemies don't really react when you shoot them or when you hit them, so it's hard to tell if you're doing damage to them. And the melee weapons, while they sound good and the blood looks fantastic, don't have that much impact when you actually hit stuff. So it kind of just feels janky in that way. And a lot of the combat similar to the original, so this is being faithful, but also it shows its design age. A lot of the combat kind of comes down to I'm going to sit at a corner and lean around the corner, and because this enemy can't actually shoot me, and I'm just going to shoot it with my pea shooter like 5 times until it falls over, and it's just shooting a wall instead of shooting me. So the combat's a lot of that, but as a kind of stealth-focused, open environment remake of a game from 1994, I'm having an absolute blast with it.
That's awesome. I think it's very, it's always a pretty big challenge to find the line between when you're coming in like for a remake or a remaster of an old and a really beloved title like that, to find the line between, okay, what do we actually like rebuild and remake, and you know, what do we actually keep basically as is to remain faithful to the original. And it sounds like they've managed to strike a pretty good line between those two kind of concepts.
And of course, everybody loves getting yelled at by the best evil robot mommy. So, you know, yell at me, Shodan. I'll be here all week. But yeah, that's kind of all I really have to say about System Shock, unless there's anything more you guys want to ask about it. Because, like, you know, it's System Shock. You're best off going into it with a pencil and paper, because someone's going to mention a code at some point, and you're probably going to need to write it down. And there are, like, passcodes in there already that seem to change every playthrough. So, like, there was a code that I was trying to figure out to get through a particular door, and then ended up going back through my VOD to find the code. And while I was going, and when I found it, somebody else was like, "Oh, I was just gonna say what the code was, because I like, but you had the backseating turned off. Good thing I didn't, because mine was a completely different number than yours."
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so there is some things that change from playthrough to playthrough. I don't know how much of that's in there. I actually don't know how much of that was in the original game. Like, that might actually be something from the original, but yeah, no, it's you might need a notepad file open while you're playing through it to write some stuff down, because you got to listen to those audio logs and pay a bit of attention. But it's been kind of a big RPG heavy. Am I still here? I think I am.
Yeah.
Okay, because Discord just did the I'm spinning circle thing for a second. So I think we're okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, we've been talking about a lot of RPGs. So Drongo, why don't you talk a little bit about Warhammer 40,000 Rogue Trader?
Yeah, so I talked a little bit about this back towards the end of last year. I played the alpha for it, and it was very, very early for the game at that stage. They didn't really have a proper tutorial opening sequence. There was a lot of UI elements and gameplay elements that were very rough. And I think at the time I was saying that I might potentially play it on stream. I ended up deciding not to because it was just so incredibly rough. And recently I was given the opportunity to check out the new beta build, which I did actually play on stream. And the good news is that it has moved along quite significantly from the original alpha, which is to be expected now that it's in beta, but just confirmation of that fact that it has made a significant upgrade. And for those of you who maybe aren't aware, Warhammer 40k Rogue Trader is a RPG or a CRPG that is set in the Warhammer 40k universe, which is a super grim dark universe, and it is set from the perspective of a rogue trader, which is like a type of faction, human faction within that universe, that basically operate in the fringe territories of the human empire. And they've come in, and I guess as a CRPG, the gameplay itself is almost like a classic tabletop RPG sort of style. If you think of games like Solasta or Divinity, Original Sin, in the same sort of style
Divinity?
of those. Yes. And with combat that is, somewhat equivalent to somewhere between, I would say like something like XCOM and, Solasta. And it is a lot of fun. I have played through the first few hours of the game now, and they have completely changed and updated the opening sequence for the game, and they've basically introduced a proper system whereby you can start to learn how to actually play the game properly. It started to have like an outline of the tutorial, and there is still a lot of placeholder and to be added components and mechanics, but they're all very clearly labeled within the character building and the class selection and skill selection screens, which is positive. And the experience I had was I enjoyed it. I did enjoy it up until the point where I had a dialogue box bug out that I could not get out of, which resulted in me having to restart the game. And when I restarted the game, it did not make any kind of autosave or manual saves of that save file, which meant that I loaded the game and the several hours that I'd spent playing had been completely removed. So that was a pretty major oversight / bug, and hopefully that is something I can only imagine will be addressed very soon. But that definitely did hamper my overall enjoyment. But at the moment, I think it's headed in the right direction, and it is absolutely up my alley in terms of the types of games that I enjoy. So I'm cautiously looking forward to the full release.
I do remember previous Owlcat games specifically, because Owlcat is the developer working on this.
Yes.
I do remember previous Owlcat games, like the Pathfinder games, being questionable bugs-wise towards the latter half of the game. Like I remember watching Bellinaire, and he was playing with a build that was like a mirror image build on his on a character that had dragon form, so it would turn into a dragon, which was like a third of the size of the screen, and then turn into like 50 dragons. So the result was you couldn't see anything, and the game ran at about 4 frames a second. Which, admittedly,
Yikes.
I blame his build, but also, like, they should try to account for that. So I don't know. Those games seem to have like some weird. Their games seem to have a little bit of weirdness to them. So curious to see how this one shapes up.
Yeah, I mean, I think it is worth pointing out that with the previous titles, like around Pathfinder, they did build that quite faithfully around an existing tabletop RPG game system and did a pretty pretty good job of actually translating that into a video game setting and a playable system that was very faithful to that. And it looks as though they're doing a very similar thing to Rogue Trader, because Rogue Trader, of course, is its own actual TTRPG, and it looks like they're following the same sort of formula of really heavily and, you know, faithfully trying to recreate that into their own video game style aesthetic. And the fact that they've already made a game like Pathfinder, which is, you know, it's not the best game that's ever been made in the CRPG genre, but it's a competent game in general. I think it'll definitely speak. Yeah, they've got the chops, I think, to pull it off, hopefully.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with that. I'm going to talk quickly about Halls of Torment, and then I think we'll jump over to Hades. I've been playing a little bit of Halls of Torment. So everybody's playing Diablo, right? Like,
Yes.
Diablo's out.
Literally everybody.
Literally everybody's playing Diablo. So I've been and I don't play Diablo, right? And I also don't support Blizzard or Activision as a studio. So I've been wanting something in like kind of the gothic feels. Now, some of you guys might remember, Suwey might remember this, and you might as well, Drongo. Chasing Carrots, little developer. They made a game called Good Company. It was a cute little building game. I don't know if either of you guys remember that, but came out in 2022. They've released Halls of Torment, which is a Vampire Survivor style, run-based action RPG or automatic survival shooter or whatever the heck you want to call it. It has auto aiming. You can turn auto aiming on and off with a toggle. Plays great on a controller, but it looks like Diablo 1, and it's got a great art style to it. You know, it plays exactly the same as Vampire Survivors. Like I said, you can aim specifically, but you don't have to. And it's got armor, it's got gear, it's got a bunch of like things to unlock. It's $5. The bosses have like pretty big spell patterns. There's 3 different maps that I've unlocked, and I've got 4 classes unlocked right now and a bunch of different spells and things. It's got your same grind progression as all these games. So each time you go out, you come back, you get money, you put money into a power creep thing to slowly make your dudes more powerful, and when you beat certain bosses in certain levels, you unlock new classes, and then you repeat and go again. It's got like 200 achievements, so there's plenty of stuff to unlock. I've got like 16 hours in it. It's become my evening game, where every evening I will play a run of it, because a map is 30 minutes, and if you don't beat the map in 30 minutes, you die, and the final boss at the end of the map has like a 2-minute timer to kill it, or you just die. And it's fun. I mean, it's that formula. If you've seen one of those, you've kind of seen them all, but this one just looks like Diablo. Yeah, talking about like things that aren't whimsical.
I mean, I mean, looking at their store page, overwhelmingly positive for nearly 2,000 reviews, which is, very impressive. And it's only released on the 25th of May, so it's obviously received quite a bit of traction, and yeah, that's impressive. And I mean, I think it's priced at a very reasonable price point as well for what it looks like as well. $7.50 Australian. That's it looks good.
Yeah, these little games are interesting because like I feel they do one of two things. They either kind of set the world on fire and they take off like this one has, or like nobody seems to notice that they even existed in the first place, and they're all very cheap. So I don't know. It's they're interesting. I generally don't jump onto kind of the automatic survival shooters, I guess, but this one looks like Diablo, and I kind of wanted to play something like that. So yeah,
good shout.
Speaking of run-based things, Suwey, you've been playing Hades.
Yeah, I've been playing Hades. I can only play it for like 2 or 3 hours at a time, because if I play it for any longer, like my hand cramps out. because I'm just not used to playing controller that much. And I've been playing it on controller, but it's been so fun. I've been really enjoying playing the different weapons. I really like how they kind of incentivize you to try different weapons. Like, I know I'm super late to this party, but you know, at least I'm here. And like, oh my gosh, the character, there's like a hot character for everyone.
Everybody's hot.
And I
yes.
love it.
Everybody's very, 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 very attractive.
Dude, like I'm usually fairly picky, so I'm just like, most games don't have like men that I find hot, right?
This is
Like,
this has
most
been the
games are
thirst
focused-
cast. What's happening today?
The first cast.
Look. Just let me finish my point.
Okay.
Most games have hot girls, but they don't really have hot guys, or at least not guys that I'm into, right? This game has 2 men where I'm just like, ooh.
Can I
you know?
interest you in Formula One manager? Sorry. Continue.
But like, and like the sound design is really good. I really like. I feel like I'm getting a lot better at the game the more I play it too, which feels really good. And overall, I'm just having a really good time. Like, I haven't beat the what is it called? It's when you first when you have like, you're at the normal people level, like not the like people who are in hell, but the people who are just dead. I forget what it's called. But it's like the 3rd area you can go to. And I haven't beaten the final boss there. I've gotten to the final boss multiple times, but I just can't beat him. The spear guy, man.
Yeah, I really, 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 really wanted to like Hades, but I had this problem with Hades where like I couldn't beat the first boss. There's something about the way that game shows depth where like everybody talks about how everything's super bright and colorful and easy to see. I find that game to be like almost impenetrable because of how it looks. I think it's a gorgeous
actually agree
game.
with
I think
you.
it's incredibly well designed. I respect the hell out of it and wish I could play it.
It's hard to see stuff. It is. I struggle. Quite a few of my deaths have been because I didn't see something that's like I should have been able to see. So I don't know. I do agree with you that it can be kind of hard. I don't have it as bad as you do, but I definitely understand where you're coming from because it's been an issue for me too, and I feel like I'm getting better with time. I'm also kind of just generally bad at like real-time, fast-paced combat. And like, you know, I'm playing Final Fantasy and that's helping with that too, but I think that's just like a lack of experience because I didn't grow up playing that kind of game. I grew up playing like Diner Dash and stuff, right?
Certainly.
So I'm still learning the genre as a whole, if that makes sense.
Yep. Like action RPG and action RPG adjacent games are a skill set unto themselves, you know?
It is quite the skill set. So, and it takes a lot to like really like be within myself and be like, it's okay that I'm failing and I'm not as good as other players because they probably grew up on this type of gameplay and I didn't grow up playing combat games. I grew up playing Diner Dash and like Sally's Law and, you know, like little time management games. So little micromanagey things is what I grew up on.
Cooking Mama.
Yeah.
Yeah, that kind of stuff. No, I completely agree. And like and Hades is also a really good one to learn on too, because like Hades like run-based progression is really good at kind of just drip feeding you stuff, and even when you are failing and not progressing, like it still gives you something because there is so much dialogue in that game. Holy crap. Like there's so much of it. And it's also good, right? So it's an easy game to just kind of pluck away at and put time into. But one thing that I do also really respect it for is like if you do find the difficulty too much, because like to properly beat that game you have to finish it quite a few times. There is a mode that they have in the settings where you can just you turn it on and you get a little bit stronger every run. So you get a little bit more health and you do a little bit more damage every run. Which is also an option, which was something I considered doing, but I don't know, my pride keeps me from doing that.
Yeah, I'm going to avoid doing that until things are more upgraded. Once I feel like I can't upgrade things super well anymore, I'm definitely probably going to press that.
Yeah. because that's just, a way if you just want to see the story and stuff at the end, because it's kind of the glue that sticks people to that game, right?
Mm-hmm.
So last game I kind of wanted to talk about here today. I think this is the last game on our list. And then we have a bunch of news to kind of roll through. This game isn't out yet. This comes out on the 21st, but has a demo. And I've just played the demo a fourth time, so I figured I might as well talk about it on the podcast. So did either of you play Fear?
No.
Fear.
Original Fear? Yeah.
Yes.
2005, I think.
Yeah.
Well, if you like Fear... the people over at Trepang Studios making Trepang 2, which is not a sequel. It's like a radioactive thing. Anyway, Trepang 2 is published by Team 17. It's that. If you like Fear, it's that. And Fear has a pretty unique style of gameplay, right? So Fear, for people who missed it, and Suwey, I suppose, Fear is a first-person shooter developed by... Was it Monolith? Jeez, I actually can't remember who developed Fear. Anyway, Fear was it is, I guess, a action horror game, which is more of an action game. Like, there's a scary little girl that like spooks you sometimes and screams at you, and she's kind of annoying. But like, really, she's just kind of there in the background. The meat of that game is some of the most fun dudes in a video game to fight, and fantastic gunplay, combined with a slow motion button and the ability to kick people in the face and make their heads explode. And it is fantastic. And Trepang 2 is walking in those footsteps minus the spooky little girl. Although from the trailers, there is a sequence with zombies or like weird undead things running at you. So I'm sure there's some sort of supernatural stuff. The demo takes place, it's about 30 minutes long, and it takes place in a prison escape thing. So you wake up and you're in a prison cell and you have handcuffs on, and pretty quickly you kill the guard, steal his key, break out of the handcuffs, and unlock the door, take his gun, and really quickly you realize, okay, so I can I can run into a room with like 10 guys in it. They do the thing that they did in Fear where they call out where you are, they point spot you, they flip tables over and knock over vending machines and take cover. They're fun to fight, and you can John Wick through the air in slow motion, roundhouse kick a guy in the face, and dual wield shotguns. And the animation for it is incredible. Like, it's not something that a human should be able to do. Like, it's two pump action shotguns at the same time. So the animation is like, you shoot one of them, throw it in the air, shoot the other one, catch the first one. Instead of holding the trigger, you catch it, pump it, throw it in the air again, catch it, in like a weird juggling kind of thing, and like bouncing it off his waist and just this game just lets you do some of the dumbest things. Like you can you can grab a guy, you can pull the pin out on his grenade and throw him at the other guys. You are a super powerful super soldier, practically a superhero, and you can make an entire building turn red with like red goo from whatever comes out of them, and it is, I don't know. I that game comes out in 10 days and I can't wait.
Ooh, that sounds like silly fun.
I mean, like, it's super grim and super dark and brooding, but like, you can just turn 5 dudes in a small room into just like a red cloud. And it's just great. I don't know. I love, like, I'm not generally a shooter person, but I love dumb, over-the-top shooters with great gunplay that let me do some John Woo stupid, and I'm in. Like,
yeah.
just let me fly through the air in slow motion and roundhouse kick a guy so hard his head explodes, and I'm good. I will play your video game.
Well,
That's
I mean,
fair.
I played the original Fear, and I'm not good at horror games. Like, they stress me out a lot, but I really enjoyed the actual gunplay of that. So what I used to do was I'd play like an hour, and then I'd have to take like 3-hour break.
Really?
But man, like the actual gunplay in that was just so much fun. Like I have vivid memories of like running around with I forget what the name of it was, but it was like a gun that fired stakes and would like let you pin people up against the wall and all kinds of silly stuff like that. And it was just very, very satisfying.
I replayed the original Fear, I think it was 2 years ago, which was 15 years after it came out, which is crazy. Or maybe it was the year before. I can't even remember. Anyway, I replayed it a couple of years ago.
Terrifying.
And there's a clip somewhere of me throwing a grenade into one of those office sections, the grenade going off, and a dude flying out who's still alive, and I shoot this, and I had it in slow motion, and I shoot the stake gun and pin him to the ceiling, and I was like, this is the best game ever made. But I guess I'm also kind of the polar opposite of you. Like, I think that the horror, air quotes, in Fear, especially these days, is like not even remotely scary, to the point where like Alma will show up and I'll just burst out laughing because like, oh no, the walls are bleeding. Like, yay. I don't know. She's just a funny little ghost that follows you around throughout that game. But yeah, I don't know. I can't wait for Trepang 2 because people don't make shooters like that. And it's not even like they don't make them like they used to. It's like Fear was just kind of a one-of-a-kind thing that nobody's really replicated since.
Yeah. I mean, even the subsequent Fear games, I don't think even came close to really capturing that same level of gunplay. Yeah,
no, Fear 2 and Fear 3 certainly never, like, lived up to Fear 1's legacy. And, like, the massive shame about Fear is if you go look up Fear on Steam right now, you can't actually buy the original Fear on Steam. You have to buy Fear 1, 2, and 3 all in one package for $54.99 Canadian dollars, or I think $50 or something in other regions. And you can buy 2 and 3 separately for $14 or $20, but you can't buy that original Fear anymore on Steam. You have to get it off of GOG. But it does still run just fine, and it's like, I think it's $10 on GOG. But yeah, no, like, it was very much diminishing returns. Fear 2 is okay, but like it's no Fear 1.
Yeah.
And also, it is Monolith Soft who developed those. Yeah, they're making a Wonder Woman game. I think they made Gotham Knights, or no, not Gotham Knights. They put out Shadow of War and Shadow of Mordor. That's what they did. But yeah, no, Fear was kind of a one-of-a-kind thing, and I can't wait to play something that's reminiscent of that.
I might have to go back and play it again. Just see how it kind of measures up, because like in my mind, it's like one of those games. I was just like, oh man, this is the scariest shit ever. Maybe my tolerance has increased since then. Who knows?
I have a feeling. I have a feeling it won't be particularly scary. I mean, it's a haunted house, right? Like, you know,
that's true.
You know when you're walking into a horror area because nobody has said he's in the window or behind the table in like 2 minutes, and there's a flickery light, and you go, okay, where's Alma? Where's Alma? Okay, there's Alma. Okay, cool. Okay, now I get to shoot people again. Great. And then, like, I don't know if you finished the original Fear, but like by the end of that game, they're just like, shoot the ghosts with bullets. Like, you know, there's also something to be said about a horror game where it's like, I have a rocket launcher. Come at me, ghosts. So, you know, the railgun. And then, man, that game had a railgun that just turned dudes into skeletons. That game was great. Anyway, we've got a lot of news to talk about, so I think we're going to go to a real quick break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about the news, because Twitch did things.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. We'll be back right after this. And we're back with the Halcyon Frequency Podcast, and it's time to talk about the news. So, Twitch did the thing again where they communicated poorly and annoyed everybody, except this time everybody's actually like really mad because the thing that they did made everybody really mad, and it's not good. So I'm going to stop nattering on for a second here and let Drongo give us kind of an overview, because this affects everybody regardless of like how much you care about their specific changes, because these are pretty drastic. So Drongo, do you want to give us a little bit of an overview of what Twitch has been up to over the
earlier
past
this week, Twitch came out and updated their branded policy guidelines for basically how that governs how advertising and stuff can be disclosed, what is allowed, and also, you know, what restrictions there are around advertised content. And within this update, there was some really, really aggressive and overreaching language that basically said that content creators weren't allowed to advertise on their platform using a whole bunch of things, including banner ads and video sources in your OBS, or as they refer to it as burned in sources, like actually built into OBS, and on-screen displays such as logos if they took up more than 3% of the screen space. Now, a lot of Twitch streamers rely on their sponsorship revenue, and a lot of value can be found in having these sorts of things appearing on the stream. It gives value to the sponsors, and the language was very, very broad, and it not only impacted individual content creators, it also impacted the ability for events on Twitch to run, big esports events that often have big sponsors that are, have banner overlays and actual inbuilt ads within their format. And also charities as well that often rely on sponsors to actually run their charity events on Twitch. So the updates to the policy were immediately pushed back on by the community as a whole. There was a really, really big groundswell of negative feedback towards Twitch. Subsequently, later that day, there was a meeting between the Twitch executives and Twitch staff and the Twitch ambassadors. And the Twitch ambassadors spoke to Twitch and basically kind of outlined their concerns from a creator perspective, which it was really useful. And a few hours after that, I think around 8 hours after that, Twitch announced that they were going to be removing that language and pulling it back, and basically said, hey, our intention was not to stop content creators being able to enter into individual agreements with sponsors and manage relationships, direct relationships with third parties, such as individual sponsors, agencies, marketing, stuff like that, but it's actually targeting third-party ad networks. And unfortunately, this was all still worded in a way that was very, very clear and very, very vague and open to a lot of interpretation, and it still really didn't quell the overall negative feelings about this. It also didn't help the fact that even though Twitch did walk back the language that was included in the brand policy guidelines, they unfortunately left the language in the terms of service in point 12 under advertisements, the same overreaching language, which meant that it was still there after they said that it was going to be gone, which then caused a second surge of backlash as Twitch was trying to play damage control. And fortunately, as of recording this now, that has been removed, or has actually been tweaked, I should say, to clarify that this, that they are specifically talking about third-party ad networks, not individual relationships for streamers to enter into agreements. And, one of the big things here is I don't think a lot of streamers and content creators really understand what Twitch is talking about when they say they're targeting third-party ad networks. There's a lot of different interpretations out there from a lot of different streamers, and Twitch has done a really, really exceptionally poor job of actually explaining their intent and explaining their motivations behind doing this stuff. But yeah, it's been a wild, wild ride.
Yeah. And then on top of that, Twitch has also sent out new partner contracts, which has some weird wording in it. One thing in section 2.1 under content programming that's been highlighted by Moblord and shared around on social media sites quite a bit, is the following line, which is, you further agree to provide a constant amount of live content, program quality live content, regularly interact and engage with viewers of your Twitch channel, and respond to live viewers of your Twitch channel via Twitch chat. And if you do not do this, they will terminate your Twitch partnership, which is leading to more uncertainty of people going, Oh, so if I don't stream regularly, I lose partnership, which
Yeah. So
is also weird.
This is something that is going to be expanded on. So I've spoken to some staff already specifically about this. This is actually going to be specifically addressed and elaborated on, because at the moment it is still super vague. Basically, the change in the moving away from actual individual partner contracts, now there is a overall monetized streamer agreement that is applicable to all partners except for a very select small handful, and also affiliates, and that puts everybody basically under the same TOS and guidelines, which basically makes navigating the whole lot a lot simpler for Twitch. And one of the big reasons that Twitch has given to actually changing these contracts over is that depending on when your Twitch partner agreement was originally drafted, the end user license agreement would have been different for each part of that, which added a lot of complexity on their back end and opened them up to potential legal problems down the road. So there's a lot of complexity there, and there is a lot of things that are super vague. But I think we can expect to see that there is going to be some clarification coming from that very soon.
One thing I have seen is apparently they're extending like the no competing like simulcasting streams to even people who aren't affiliated. Like, it's just anyone streaming on the site, which I didn't read the legalese on this part yet. But I have heard that circulating around.
Yeah, so the result is now Ninja no longer streams on Twitch.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, so
Like,
basically
again.
they've made it so that before, if you were an affiliate, you could simultaneously broadcast your stream on multiple platforms from the
No,
same video source.
Wrong.
That's not true, Suwey. So
No, I read the affiliate contract when I signed
yes.
it. It said
Yeah,
no, but
but
there
it
was
was-
there was a
that was
change
actually
made to it.
changed last year.
They changed it last year for about a year.
Yeah.
well, they changed it so
No.
non-competitive stuff like TikTok and stuff are fine.
they changed it for not for partners, but for affiliates. For a bit there, you could simulcast on YouTube, TikTok, everywhere else. For a brief period of time, it was about a year. You could do that. It just wasn't for partners. And then this has changed it now again for everybody in the opposite direction.
Yeah, and that's why a bunch of people, including people like Ninja, basically gave up their partner contracts and benefits to be able to simulcast. And that is why there has been a backlash now against this particular change, because it's basically like, well, why did we give up being partner if now we can't do it anyway? So yeah.
Yeah, it's very strange because, like, for me, I think the smallest thing here is simulcasting, because I don't know if any of you have ever tried it, but it ain't easy. It is really, really difficult to simulcast on multiple platforms, and you kind of need to be at close to, if not at the scale of Ninja, or everybody just congregates onto one platform anyway. A friend of mine, Nucrium, has simulcasted on, I think it was YouTube and Twitch and maybe one other platform for a good number of years, and eventually just like stopped simulcasting and now just streams on Twitch as a Twitch partner, because it like, yeah, he'd get like 150 viewers on YouTube and like 80 viewers on Twitch, but he does better financially just streaming on Twitch. So like simulcasting is like kind of a unique niche thing that I've definitely seen people trying to do it, but I like that to me is the smallest portion of this. But maybe I'm narrow-minded and need to get into the modern streaming era where everybody streams on everything all at once simultaneously.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think the interesting thing here is that you can still effectively broadcast yourself on multiple platforms live. It just can't be coming from the same video source.
Actually, I know a blacksmith channel who does that. He's been simulcasting on like 5 different services for years, and he just has 5 cameras. and they're just slightly different angles, and it's just him blacksmithing, right? But it's like he'll have one for Reddit, one for TikTok, one for Instagram, one for Twitch, which is like, you know, his full screen thing with multiple cameras, and like, you know, it's pricey for him to set that up, but it works, and they all just cross promote the Twitch, and it blows his Twitch up quite a bit. So, you know, like there definitely are ways that you can simulcast. You just can't use, basically Restream.io is not very happy right now.
Yeah.
But that's kind of about it. I don't know. Like that whole non-compete thing always just weirded me out. Like I remember YouTube used to do that back in the day when YouTube made their original live streaming platform, which was god awful. They had very strict non-compete clauses to the point where if you were a YouTube partner, you couldn't even like stream for fun on a different platform. Because I remember when Justin TV was blowing up, CNanners couldn't stream on Justin TV because he was a YouTube contract streamer and had to stream on the YouTube platform, which everybody hated, which didn't even have chat at the time. So like to me, it like doesn't make sense to do that, but like also it affects a pretty small minority. I think the bit that really perplexes me about this, I guess, is just all the ad content stuff and then the changes to the contracts. But at the same time, like I think they kind of needed to change the contracts at some point, and when contracts get changed in any kind of freelancing industry, it's going to freak people out, right? Because contracts are hard to read, they're hard to like acknowledge, and you have to sign it or you lose all of your income, right? Like,
absolutely.
So,
and the other thing as well is that there's always going to be an inherent amount of inbuilt vagueness within contracts like this. They're deliberately and strategically vague in certain places because it is really, really hard to make very specific legal stipulations that cover every imaginable scenario. And, you know, it's in Twitch's best interest to make sure that their contracts cover as much room and as many scenarios as possible for them, and they're going to do what is in the best interest for them. And, you know, it's our job, I guess, in the counter position. You know, we're at the whims of Twitch, but, you know, we've got to be vocal about our you know, dissatisfaction with overly vague contract terms, you know, especially around, you know, well, okay, what do you mean by quality content? What do you mean by consistent? You know, they're very, very vague terminologies. In terms to the ad stuff with the what Twitch is talking about with third-party ad networks, I actually made a video specifically going into a bit of a deep dive and talking specifically about this. So I won't go too much in detail, but I can say that there is genuinely third-party ad network platforms out there that are not Stream Elements and things that people often kind of think of when they're talking about this. But there are platforms such as Show and LiveAd or LiveAd that basically get streamers to register them and sign a contract with them. And those streamers that have contracts with them will then have an inbuilt widget that exists on their stream that the network platform can then push advertisers on ads directly to their streams. That is not like a specific arrangement, a specific agreement, and that basically competes directly with Twitch's own advertising portal, an own advertising platform with mid-rolls or pre-rolls, and that's what they're really, really concerned about. And you know, like, a lot of people probably have been playing down, you know, those that I have heard talking about these platforms have been playing down, you know, whether these are actually genuinely competing with Twitch for their ad space. But, you know, LiveAd within the last year has worked with Disney, Mercedes-Benz, Domino's, Pandora, you know, lots and lots of really, really big companies that Twitch would absolutely love to be getting, you know, that advertising money through them. But basically a third party is selling their ad space to these people.
Yeah, no, I've seen those like styles of ads on a couple of esports streams and a few other places, specifically on like Dota streams and stuff like that. I don't know. There's like certain communities that I think have really adopted that kind of marketing with the baked in stream ads. So yeah, no,
I mean, I have that, but it's only for like, it's one company, you know? Well, I mean, technically it's two companies that work together, but like, I know exactly what it's for and everything. And like, you know, it's just those two companies.
Yeah.
And it's just for like a PC hardware company, you know? But I have been contacted by Show recently, and I'm just like, I'm just not gonna respond because like, I don't think they're gonna be viable pretty soon.
that or they'll
There's
just
no point
be
in responding.
moving to different platforms, you know?
Yeah.
But
I mean,
go on.
I mean, to your point, Blind, yeah, I think you're right that there is certain parts of Twitch that have really adopted these integrations much more heavily, specifically the Spanish and Turkish audiences on Twitch, which are, you know, pretty sizable.
Also Brazil. I think every single Brazilian-based streamer I know has some sort of
100%.
baked-in ad.
Yes, exactly. It is really, really big. So they are, you know, and I think it's only now that we're starting to see some streamers in the English-speaking space really start to adopt them. Like I know a few people have recently signed contracts with LiveAd under the GG Talent Agency, you know, the one that Kiri's under. Yep. So like it is now starting to filter through into the English space, and I think, you know, unless Twitch nips it in the bud, it is going to be something that continues to be a growing problem for them.
Yeah, man, what was it called? Was it called Loots or something? There was that service where viewers could go and trigger an ad on your stream, and then the streamer would get paid money based on the view count. I can't remember the name of it, but there's been services that have been adopted by people in my circles before, but none of them have really stuck around. And like you said, they're much larger in like the Turkish and the non-English portions of Twitch. But like the thing I guess that really makes me grumbly about all of this is all that this really does. And this like this very much reminds me of like I think it was 2015 on YouTube when YouTube changed their partner contracts so that anybody with less than 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 viewer minutes lost their partnership. Because back YouTube has gone through like I think 4 eras now. They started off being very community focused, then got super locked down and weirdly protective of their content, and then they became kind of very community focused again, and then got more locked down but not as locked down as they were previously, and they've kind of just stayed that way since. When YouTube did that, this feels like that, where suddenly a whole bunch of people lost their YouTube contracts. Admittedly, they were all tiny, right? Like I was one of them. I had like 400 subscribers on YouTube or whatever, and I'd saved up like $90 something in an AdSense account, which you can't get until you get $100. So I had $90 sitting in an AdSense account until 2019 when I finally got YouTube Partner back. This kind of feels like that to a degree. And when you have that level of community distrust, even if it's misplaced, like this is to me mostly just seems like bad communication, and like some of these changes kind of suck, but like none of them are, you know, like I don't think it's going to bankrupt anybody. Except for maybe some very specific people if you have a really strange income flow, I suppose, like, but even if it's not going to hurt people, it makes people leave the platform, right? And in the past, like 4 days, I've had some people just straight up say, yeah, I'm canceling all my Twitch subs. I don't support Twitch anymore. And it's like, why? And it's like, well, the changes they're making to this thing. I'm like, but that doesn't affect any of the people you watch. Like, why would you do that? And it just makes like sites like Kick for some reason seem more appealing. At least where I come from, I wouldn't touch Kick with a 250-foot pole if they offered me money, because they allow slots on that site, and it's funded by cryptocurrency gambling, which I will not go near. I don't care. Fortunately, I'm also in the position of having like a rather sizable YouTube channel, which I could jump to if I needed to. Like if Twitch suddenly shut down tomorrow, I would just go stream full time on YouTube and probably do okay. So I don't know. It's this stuff just sucks, and I really wish they were better at communicating. I wish they like currently they really can't talk to the partners either. Like they can't tell us something first because people are just gonna screenshot and tweet it out. They don't care. Like regardless of like if Twitch used to send out emails like when there was I think only 8,000 Twitch partners or so, they used to send out emails which were like confidential. You can't say anything about what's in this email, and generally stuff wouldn't leak out. But like there's 80,000 Twitch partners now. Like stuff just shows up on social media the second Twitch sends it to us. So instead of like even trying to communicate with us, like to me, I say we, but I wasn't a partner at the time. I personally feel that large portion of the reason why that changed is because they like we ruined that for ourselves to a degree. We broke that trust because they can't tell us what they're doing in advance anymore. So they just make changes and then it just goes out publicly and then everybody gets them. And then it's like half of us are streaming while these changes come into place. And then it's like, okay, how do we deal with this? And it causes panic and unrest and just causes people to lose money and viewership.
Yeah. Well, I think that part of the problem is that Twitch doesn't even really have the ability to trust itself. I think that a lot of leaks these days that are coming out in advance are coming from Twitch internally and getting leaked directly out. It's not a case of being leaked by Twitch partners these days. It's getting leaked by staff themselves.
Well,
so it almost feels like
too.
Twitch has to kind of segregate the information that gets shared between its own internal teams, which is just kind of a crazy way to run a company like that when it is, really crucial for a lot of changes to actually have the proper consultation to make the right decisions regarding, big changes like this. And, there's a lot of rightful criticism being leveraged at Twitch, saying that, realistically, they did not consult the right teams within Twitch and externally from Twitch, they didn't consult the ambassador team. Like if you're not going to consult Twitch partners, that's fine, but you've got this whole team of actual ambassadors that are content creators, specialists, figureheads that represent Twitch and know the platform intimately. They're a fantastic resource to be able to, if you're making policy changes that impact creators directly, actually, speak to them, refer to them, get information from them to understand the impact from their perspective. Like it's just a really, really bizarre situation that Twitch just seems to be unable to manage the communication and the workflow to actually operate effectively. It's just truly astonishing how bad some of it is.
Yeah, I don't really have much more to really add to that. So I guess at this point we'll just, a lot of this stuff's still in flux. I'm sure it'll come up again on this podcast if we hear more from this, and I'm sure it'll be talked about again. So let's kind of start to wind this podcast down a little bit by skimming over the Summer Games Fest, or Game Fest, I think is what they actually call it. There's no S, which kind of hurts my brain because I thought it was Summer Games Fest. But let's talk about the Summer Game Fest real quick. A bunch of stuff was announced the other day, and there's a bunch of other things happening on the schedule. So, Suwey, you've been kind of quiet a little bit through this bureaucracy and sadness. So, what would you like to jump into first with Summer Game Fest?
I just have a few things to note. Fae Farm is not only a Nintendo Switch exclusive, it is for PC as well now, which I'm super excited about because it looks really cute. It's a cute fairy farming sim. Then Lake is getting a DLC, and there's a bunch of cool indie games coming out. I might post about those on social media or something, so.
Drongo, anything you want to point at and highlight from Game Fest?
Yeah, so they announced and showed some gameplay footage of Space Marine 2 and the co-op from that. And man, I adore Space Marine 1. I'm a big fan of the Warhammer 40k universe, as I mentioned earlier, talking about Rogue Trader. But that game was just a fantastic example of a third-person shooter that really captured the environment, captured the gunplay, captured the weight and the feel of the character that you're meant to be playing in that. And my goodness, if the second game plays as in the same sort of way and has that same feeling of playing, coupled with the visuals and the environments that they've showcased already through those videos, and with co-op as well, this could be a real banger. I don't want to get too overly excited, but I am, at this stage a little bit optimistic that it could be genuinely really good.
If that game is really good, I'm going to play the hell out of that.
Same.
Yeah. Other things that got announced, Alan Wake 2 got a gameplay reveal. It looks a lot more occult than the first one. If you played the original Alan Wake, it was very kind of like sort of Silent Hill, but also maybe a little bit more like whimsical and kind of funny. Like it was a horror game, but it was very much like a thriller more than a horror game, and it had a lot of very fun, light characters. This seems a lot darker because like they did say this one's going to be a survival horror game, and it looks like something, and it looks kind of freaky. So kind of curious about that. Star Trek Infinite is a grand strategy game from Paradox, or published by Paradox, yes. Developed by a studio named Nimble Giant Entertainment, and by the end of it, like it pans out at the ground and it looks kind of like Stellaris. So I'd be curious to see what that looks like. And one of my favorite film directors of all time is directing John Carpenter's Toxic Commando, which is like a first-person zombie shooter. I don't know if this is going to be any good, but like I like John Carpenter a whole lot, and I like his creature design. And the thing I don't really trust about it is I know he's a really big fan of Assassin's Creed and really likes Ubisoft games. So I don't know what this is going to be like, but like I don't know. I'm curious.
As a whole, there was a lot of co-op, like FPS and specifically like zombie shooter games announced, like a lot.
Speaking of co-op, this is something I have absolutely no hope or expectation that it will be any good, but Lord of the Rings, Return to Moria is coming out this fall, which is the first-person dwarf Moria survival crafting game, which, it's like, what if Deep Rock Galactic, but like more survival focused, and also in Lord of the Rings. After Golem, I don't trust any Lord of the Rings games. Like it's going to take a while for me to like have any faith that any of them will be any good. But that's got a release date. Baldur's Gate's also got a release date. So there's a lot of stuff happening. Path of Exile 2 is no longer a meme.
Yeah,
that's. Nicolas Cage is a meme, and he's in Dead by Daylight as Nicolas Cage playing himself. So
cool.
Good stuff. Good stuff's happening. Games are being games, and I think we're going to wrap up this podcast. So before I do the podcast blurb outro, Suwey, who are you, and where can we find you on the internet?
I am Suwey. You can find me on Twitch at Suwey, Suwey. My YouTube, my main channel is at Suwey. My VOD archive is at Suwey Streams. I'm on Twitter at Suwey Streams, and most other social platforms at Suwey Streams.
And Drongo, same thing.
I am Bloody Drongo. I am a content creator, voice actor, and commissioned artist. And you can find me on Twitter as Bloody Drongo, all one word, and on Twitter as @TheBloodyDrongo.
I'm Blind IRL, and you can find me as Blind IRL, and I have an upset stomach, so I'm going to go eat some Tums and lie on my bed for a bit, and then edit a podcast. This is the Halcyon Frequency Podcast. You can find more episodes over at halcyonfrequency.com. If you want to talk about this podcast, we have a room on our community Discord where you can discuss the podcast and things happening about it. And if you would like to hear like more episodes of this podcast, it should be findable in any places where you can find organic podcasts on the podcast farms. If you can't find it somewhere, just DM me and I'll make it appear there. Or if it disappears from somewhere, DM me and I'll make it reappear there. It disappeared from iTunes briefly because I needed to update a thing. I'm sorry. Okay, it's back now. And it was only gone for like a day. Then aside from that, thank you very much to Peter Pohl and Paul Mile for the lovely intro and outro music you've heard during this show. And with all that being said, this has been Halcyon Frequency. Till next week, episodes go live on Sunday. Don't touch that dial. This is Halcyon Frequency signing off.